I alternated mouthfuls of marinara-slathered noodles and chunks of butter-soaked garlic bread, pausing only to breathe and swallow root beer. I wiped pasta sauce off my pimples with the back of my hand. When my plate was empty, I raced back to the kitchen for more. I piled layers of Parmesan on my little pasta mountain, grabbed another half-moon slice of bread, and snubbed the stainless steel bowl of vegetables. This was a high school swim team pasta feed. The stated purpose of which was to give the team a chance to carbo load before a swim meet. Eating mounds of starch supposedly translated into a surplus of energy the next day. Who knew if this idea was in fact nutritionally or scientifically sound? But 15-year-old me never said no to all-you-can-eat pasta. This was not gluttony. This was for the sport. Across the table from me sat Stefan, a junior, and Matt, a senior. I, a mere freshman, felt minuscule next to them. I wore size 30 pants with a belt and weighed 140 pounds after a large meal. I had scrawny arms and legs, and my chest was essentially all skeleton. Meanwhile, they filled out their bright yellow warm-ups with broad shoulders and hefty triceps. The yellows were the traditional team outfit of the day before a meet. I wore the same thing. We were 3 bananas sitting at a table. My swimming ability had earned me a spot on varsity. I'd swam most of my life. It was my sport. There were permanent rings around my eyes from where my goggles pressed against my face. And in PE, I made the gym smell like chlorine when I sweat. I was dedicated, and I was fast. But all that time in the pool hadn't prepared me for an entirely new challenge, the team part. On the team, there were other measures of worth besides speed. For example, Stefan led the team in singing rounds of Row, Row, Row Your Boat in the showers after each morning practice. The echoing of voices off tile somehow made waking up at such ungodly hours bearable. Matt told stories of sneaking onto the roof of the pool and showed us how to shave with a pink razor borrowed from his mom, because those cheap 2-blade disposable razors cut the skin. I sat near these 2 legends, shoveling pasta and not saying much. So far, all I'd done on the swim team was put my head down and swim. I didn't feel worthy to sit with them. I was still waiting for some way to be more than the time on a stopwatch. Matt put his fork down and scratched at the thin stubble under his chin. He cleared his throat. So, I am going to light my pee on fire. A lump of half-chewed spaghetti fell out of my mouth. It was a ludicrous proposal coming from a guy who not only had above a 4.0, but could also, more importantly, grow a beard. I was intrigued. He stabbed a spear of asparagus off his plate and popped it into his mouth. I've been reading that if you eat enough asparagus, your pee is flammable. I wiped my mouth with my sleeve. I reasoned that if there were a chance that the human body did, in fact, create a flammable compound as a result of asparagus consumption, it would be heavily diluted by the amount of water present in pee, and therefore the pee itself would not be flammable. My reasoning seemed sound. I don't believe it, I said. But as the words left my mouth, I thought, what if? Stefan examined the asparagus on the end of his fork with a newfound curiosity. I just know that it makes your pee smell funny if you eat a lot, he said. The idea sounded impossible, but Matt himself, swim team elder, was saying that it would work. Stefan raised his voice. Here, Matt, have some more water. Some of the team turned and gave our table a curious look. Stefan stood facing the entire living room. Your attention, please. Nobody else eat the asparagus. Matt needs it to light his pee on fire. The remainder of the asparagus in the room was consolidated onto Matt's plate. No one questioned it. Matt poked at the stack of green and smiled. A crowd of greasy-faced swimmers watched him eat. Wait, Stefan held up a finger. Won't it take a long time for that asparagus to enter your system and turn into pee? Aha, my good man! Matt's face lit up as if he had been anticipating such doubts. I've been eating asparagus for dinner all week and finishing the leftovers at lunch. I chimed in. Your mom must be sick of making it. My lingering skepticism garnered a disapproving look from Stefan. On the contrary, Matt raised his eyebrows. She's happy I'm eating my greens. He was making short work of the cut-up spears on his plate and washing them down with plenty of water. His confidence was unfaltering. Perhaps it was possible for a man to light his pee on fire. Who knew if this idea was in fact nutritionally or scientifically sound, but I had to admit that it was freaking awesome. A feeling of anticipation hung in the air, mingling with chlorine and meat sauce. Matt happily ate on. Drink soda, you'll pee faster, I said. I moved a 2-liter bottle of A&W closer to him. If this was happening, I wanted to be part of it. Stefan put a supportive hand on Matt's shoulder. And don't pee until you think you have to go a lot. The lighting of the pee had now become a team effort. Only Matt could create the flaming pee, but we'd support him in any way possible. Stefan went and conferred with his mother about how to best carry out our experiment. I knew she'd let us do it because she was a cool mom. At her last pasta feed, she gave us fireworks and turned us loose in the street. So she should have been okay with a controlled burn, even if it was urine-based. She burst into a smile while Stefan explained the situation. Gentlemen, the time has come. Matt rose and went into the bathroom to prepare the sample. Boys, Stefan's mom held up a hand in pause. Just don't make a mess. The team, wearing their warm-ups, gathered in the driveway in a yellow pack. Stefan came out, followed by Matt, who held a floral-patterned mason jar filled to the brim with pale yellow piss. I thought, were we even allowed to do this? Shouldn't we be back inside, staying off our feet and packing a few more calories into our gullets? I started to think about the meat the next day, but forgot it. Right now, it was just us and the pee. Matt lowered the pee to the ground, as one would set a precious artifact on an altar. Solemnly, he held up a red-handled lighter and clicked the trigger. Stefan started a slow clap, and in the spirit of the moment, everyone followed. He looked at me, eyes wide, nodding, indicating that I should join in. My last skepticism melted away and I put my hands together. I was implicated in the lighting. It was like Tinkerbell. Clap my hands and the flame would spring to life. Matt lowered the flame to the surface of the liquid and paused. Everyone was quiet. He touched the lighter to the pea and stepped back. A soft blue flame sprouted from the top of the mason jar. My mouth dropped. I heard squeals of disbelief as people jumped into the air and ran around the driveway. Stefan clapped. Huzzah! We became a tribe possessed. Dancing around the flaming mason jar, I fist bumped, I chest bumped, I high-fived. Matt was looking up at the sky, both hands raised in victory. I slapped him on the back and congratulated him on the flammable miracle his body had produced. And you thought it couldn't be done! Matt poked his finger in my chest. I had to admit that he was right, that before my eyes, the impossible had become possible. The flames burned gallantly in the twilight, like the torch at the Olympic Games, like a monument to swim teams past and those to come, an eternal flame, a symbol of camaraderie and asparagus. As I watched the pea burn in the driveway, my shock slowly turned into a sense of accomplishment. I turned to Stefan. Dude, we totally lit Matt's pea on fire. 1 year later, I was at Apostrophe trying to think of a team bonding activity when I remembered. Hey, Stefan, I said. Remember when Matt ate all that asparagus and lit his pea on fire? Stefan gave me a concerned look. And then all the little details came together. The way Matt and Stefan had pushed lighting the pea from the beginning, Stefan's mom laughing in the kitchen, the very large mason jar filled right to the top. Stefan laughed, and the rest of the team joined in, knowing the one thing that I hadn't figured out after all this time. There was lighter fluid in the pea.
American sweetheart.